Arsenal have beaten Manchester United by 3 goals to 2 at the death at the Emirates to remain 5 points clear of Manchester City, who also won today, which meant that the pressure was back on Arsenal to deliver, and they've done it thanks to 2 Eddie Nketiah goals and a Bukayo Saka screamer as well. We're going to dissect it all for you. Make sure you're liking the video, commenting and subscribing. We've got Nick Francis here, absolutely buzzing, big Arsenal fan. Your instant match reaction, because it has literally just finished.
Oh man, obviously we were watching the game together, emotions sky high. I can't believe what I've just seen. You know, I become so close to just going, oh, okay, fine, it's a point. You know, okay, whatever, just don't lose it, just don't lose it. And the dream of winning this game was just starting to escape me when it happened. But yeah, I mean, over the moon, obviously, over the moon.
Yeah, Arsenal in absolute dreamland right now. You can see the Ashburton army making noise. They've got their drums out. Saka's moving the camera to all kind of angles that the cameraman probably doesn't want it to be, but it makes for good television. And what a game that was. What entertainment we've just had. There's an argument to say that was a bit of a throwback to the mid-noughties, maybe late 90s Arsenal United.
For sure. For sure. Like, you know, I feel like we deserved to win that game. I felt like their second goal was a little bit of luck, but it was classic Arsenal giving the opponents that luck. Poor from a set piece, poor communication. You know, where would Arsenal be without a defensive lapse, if you like? It's very characteristic of us, but I think we deserve that. I think Saka deserves it for, you know, being with us from the Emery days and playing various different positions. And Nketiah deserves it for the disrespect that he's gotten to come on and get a brace against a big team that's doing really, really well. That game is just unbelievable. Everything that you could possibly want.
Yeah, 5 goals. It basically had it all. Unbelievable.
Definitely.
Spells where, especially at the end, United were massively under the cosh. So I think on the reflection, you could say that Arsenal did deserve to win that game and they got their just rewards. Eddie Nketiah, the much aligned Eddie Nketiah, who is criticised somewhat for the wage, even though I don't think he should be, because it's not even astronomical in these days.
I don't think it's
and
just
also
the wage.
The number 14 as well.
And
just having that pressure in the absence of Jesus. But boy, is he delivered today. A great header in the first half, gets in front of Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and then in the second half, right place, right time, right man.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, he had a couple where he was in the right place a couple of times and he didn't get the finish, and so you just started to lose that confidence that he's ever going to get it. And then, like we said, 91st, 92nd minute, he goes and gets it. We had no idea. It was just bedlam. Subs late on. We didn't know what added minutes there were. We had no idea when the whistle was going to come. So, you know, adulation completely. I can't believe what I've just seen. A massive mental test for us. That's what, in the first, when Rashford scored, it seemed like we were losing the mental test. And we spoke earlier, didn't we, and said Man United have not lost a game from a winning position, from scoring first, sorry.
And I said you had to break those stats today, and you did.
Exactly, yeah. So it's a huge mental test for us to overcome, and we did it. You know, I thought that we looked a little bit shaky at times, midfield. And you know what's great about this win? We didn't perform that well. There were a couple of players today. Partey looked a little bit off of it. Xhaka making some mistakes. There were a couple of players that weren't quite at it, but we managed to scrape through a win, and that, you know, dare I say it, that's the mark of champions, they say.
It is, you know, going back to the old days when Liverpool won the league 2.5 years ago, there were moments in games where you think you're almost resigning to a draw, at least. You say, right, it's not too bad, Villa away, and then Mane, last 10 seconds, scores a winner, and then your whole mentality changes. And 100%. It is right, it's totally a mental thing, that. Big up to everyone who's involved right now. We're really going to dissect the game as it deserves to be in full. Over 900 of you. Make sure you're liking the video as you enter the chat, especially if you're an Arsenal fan.
Yeah, let's go, boys. Let's go, Arsenal fans.
Twice.
Get all the Arsenal fans in here, man.
Let's try and get, before the stream ends, I want to get 2,000 or 3,000 likes on this video. It's ambitious, but there's 1,000 of you right now, and that will continue to grow. And of course, get your comments in as well. Remember, super chats go straight to the front of the queue. Big up to Snoop Shrek. Hold that L, he says. Maybe talking about Flex in particular, who thought this game was going to be 1-1, saying we don't get beat. Smash the likes, as DR Sports say there. Not an excuse, but we wouldn't have conceded 3 goals if Casemiro was playing, says we are back.
Well, that's exactly an excuse, isn't it? I mean, it's all well and good saying it's still well and good saying it's not an excuse, and then immediately saying and then immediately giving us an excuse. But look, I mean, I think Partey felt bad that Casemiro wasn't there and decided to barely turn up today to make it a little bit even. So there you go.
Also, United fans in the comments saying it was offside for the final winning goal.
So it was Rashford's. So at the time, listen, when we spoke about Rashford's offside goal against Man City, all the United fans told me on Twitter, it swings in roundabouts. It will come back again. Fair enough. I don't think it was offside from looking at it, but if it does swing in roundabouts, then there you go. You can use your own earlier tweets from a couple of weeks ago to console yourselves because the game's done and it's free too.
Party got skinned saying we are back. Maybe at fault for the Rashford goal, which was a fantastic bit of skill, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a good goal. Very good goal.
An unbelievable game. Should we go right to the start? And for those joining us right now, make sure you like in the video. Should we go right up to the top of the game and dissect it in full? Go chronological on this one.
Let's do it.
Again, electric start really from Arsenal, especially as a home team. You'd always think that they would come out of the traps, especially with recent performances. But it was Manchester United that scored the first goal. Incredible bit of close control from Marcus Rashford to nutmeg Thomas Partey. He finds a little bit of space, still got a lot of work to do from maybe 25, 27 yards out. And it's a rocket. It's a near post one. It's gone past Ramsdale before he knows it, and then he gives it one of these to the home fans right in front of them.
Listen, me and you were watching the game together, and as soon as he skinned Partey, you heard me shouting. What was I shouting? He's gonna shoot. He's gonna shoot on the kind of form that he's on. The way he shaped his body up, he's got great technique, and the way he shaped his body up before, he's gonna bang it, isn't he? And he did. You know, and Marcus Rashford's an amazing player. I'm a big fan of him, but he was just doing it all alone today from a Man United perspective. Do you know what I mean? He didn't have Anthony was close to anonymous on that side, and he was doing it all on his own in a similar way that I think, you know, we'll go into it in order, but I think Saka was doing a lot of it on his own today as well, but he just had a little bit more help from the likes of Zinchenko and even Trossard late on.
Today, by the way, Zinchenko.
Yeah, all the rest. You know, we
just
as a team helped him a little bit more. But Rashford's unbelievable today.
Yeah, brilliant goal from Rashford. Keeps up his incredible form. 2 minutes after that, Ben White gets a yellow card. Eventually goes off at half time. Tomiyasu comes on and does fairly well. But only 7 minutes after United go 1-0 up, Eddie Nketiah, number 14, finds himself unmarked in the 6-yard box, and he's heading home from a brilliant Granit Xhaka cross. The question here, though, Nick, how was he allowed to get in front of Aaron Wan-Bissaka so easily?
I've said it before the game, I'll say it again. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I was looking at Wan-Bissaka versus Martinelli, right? That's the normal matchup when these two play each other. And I said this, Wan-Bissaka is very, very good in one-on-one defending situations, but you can drag him out of position. You know, his positioning has always been the real weakness, and obviously his attacking, all the rest of it. But from a defensive perspective, his positioning is really the weakness, you know? And so, yeah, and also we were criticising the crosses and the corners. Some of the corners hitting the first man. I'm not a huge fan of Martinelli on these corners. That one they took short that time. Couple passes in the build-up play, and then they're able to just find that moment when Eddie Nketiah is peeling off of Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And you know, we say this about Eddie all the time, he's not the best finisher, but his movement is great up against a defender whose movement in position is very poor. So, you know, these things are going to happen.
So that's 1-1. Let's go into a couple of super chats before we get back through the timeline of the game. Legendary Villain says, is this guy okay? Arsenal conceded a lucky goal, Saka deflected goal, and deflected goal for Nketiah, he says.
What's that?
He says, is this guy okay? Arsenal conceded a lucky goal, question mark. Saka deflected goal and deflected goal for Nketiah.
I don't know if I said we conceded a lucky goal. I said Rashford's goal was class. I don't think I said...
That's his super chat, so I have to
fair
read
enough.
out, Nick.
Fair enough. No, fair enough. If I said that, then I retract. But yeah, I don't think. Oh no, sorry. The Martinez goal, I think was like. We'll come to that actually.
Okay,
we'll come to that in the order
because
the Martinez goal, I do think was lucky, not the Rashford goal. But again,
Brandon be talking all the way from America. Big up to you, my friend. Does Jesus replace Nketiah when he comes back healthy, or does Nketiah remain as the sole number 9? I mean, it would be difficult. Let's say, for instance, Jesus comes back to fitness tomorrow.
Yep.
If I was Eddie Nketiah and I get dropped, I'm fuming because the numbers speak for themselves right now.
Well, first of all, we did this. I mean, Jesus and Aubameyang are two very different players and different character profiles. But we did this with Aubameyang when he came back from injury, and it upset the dressing room a little bit. For me, the injury Jesus has come back from, it's not a huge headache because no one comes back from that injury 100% match fit from the get-go. He'll need to be eased into the team. So the way that we use Trossard today, last 15, last 20, we'll start to use Jesus that way when he comes back from injury, and we'll see how he goes. But there will be a good, healthy pressure on him when he comes back of coming off from Nketiah, whether Nketiah has played well, wherever he's scored, and know that he needs to use that 15, 20 minutes to really make a mark on the game. So I'm quite looking forward to having him come back.
Yeah, and it just gives you that more depth and quality really from the bench or
Just
to
something
start.
a little bit different as well. Do you know what I mean?
And Trossard, I have to say, we'll get into him coming on, but great cameo. So 24 minutes, Eddie Nketiah scores the goal. Anthony booked straight after half-time, after Ben White comes off for Tomiyasu, and then 53 minutes in, Saka, I can't even say finds a bit of space because he's actually almost going backwards towards his own goal.
But he does that.
And then he wraps his foot around it, and it's got such a true strike to it. Doesn't get deflected. Fairly similar in a way to the technique to Rashford's goal, but on the other foot. But the way he strikes it, De Gea can't really get there in time, and it skids off the surface. But that could have easily been one that goes over, but he's kept it low and true.
Look, this is what separates Bukayo Saka, in my opinion, from other wingers, is that he creates that space for himself. He knows that Shaw is very physical, he's going to hold him tight. And the last few attacks he had before he scores that goal, Saka, he drops deeper and deeper and deeper. He comes more central and more central and more central, and he picks a run against Eriksen instead of a run against Luke Shaw, knowing that Eriksen's maybe not the best defensive midfield player, talented player, but not the best defensive midfield player, and creates that room for himself. That's what separates him. Gabby Martinelli's good. There's a lot of good talented wingers, but elite wingers like Saka, and I would say he's an elite winger, can create that space for himself. And then obviously go and rocket it into the bottom corner.
Brilliant technique. And we were saying we haven't really seen one of those goals from Saka for a minute.
Yeah.
Fairly similar to what we were talking about earlier about Ian Robin being able to cut in on that left-hand side onto your
and
left
across
foot
the keeper as well. Rashford tends to go near post.
But from that way out, it's no mean feat because he's given it some whip, but it's also a very true laces strike.
It's one of those, it bounces just before the key. It's very, very difficult to stop because it bounces just in the 6-yard box. Yeah, exactly.
Wet surface.
On the carpet.
It's very cold here in North London tonight. Trust me on that one. Again, 6 minutes later, similar to the length of time between the first goal and the second goal in this game, Lisandro Martinez scores his first goal for Manchester United. A 5'6" man scoring a header away at the Emirates.
The header was waist high. Do you know what I'm saying? It was more of a diving header, and that's where I think I used the word luck. And United fans aren't going to like it, but I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to give you the facts, whether you like it or not. The reality of the situation is that goal comes from a defensive error from us. Poor communication between Tomiyasu and Ben White, and Aaron Ramsdale, Tomiyasu's barely played since he's come back from the World Cup. He's come back from injury, not quite sharp, didn't do too badly, but just poor communication from them. Either one of them could have got it, but not both of them can get it. And then the ball falls to Martinez. And it's good improvisation from him last minute to just try and knock it into the goal. Obviously, the keeper's committed himself, but yeah, there was an element of luck where that's come from an Arsenal mistake more than great Man United football.
Vicky Scott saying hopefully that keeps Gary Neville quiet for a while.
Nothing will ever keep Gary Neville quiet if there's one thing we know about Gary Neville.
So that's 2-2. Lisandro Martinez with a big band-aid round his head. He's got a black eye. Like I said, first goal for United, runs straight into the away fans, giving it what for, as you should, I guess. And then a pivotal moment, I think. There's a 10-minute gap where Fred comes on for Anthony. Now, that is a sub to me that says, let's shore out this game. But if anything, Fred was potentially the reason why, in the end, they lost this game with that bad kind of interception. But then 10 minutes after that, a massive changing point in the game at 2-2. And I think this sub of Fred for Anthony and this sub for Trossard coming on for Martinelli, they're very key moments within the game. When it's so delicately poised at 2-2, you make small little changes and then you get up a bit, the crowd get up, and obviously what an occasion for Trossard coming on well, it turned out to be about a 14-minute cameo, but he was impressive today. Let us know what you thought about Leandro Trossard in the comments right now. Arsenal fans, are you excited to see more of that? and more than 14 minutes for this time. Yeah,
again, like we watched the game together, and you'll know I was calling for this substitution to come on because we have a lot of young, raw talent, but what we don't have a lot of, especially in the attacking positions, is just that maturity and that composure, that good decision making. Martinelli is very good, but he's still very rash, he's still very raw, and Trossard gave us a really composed, mature 15 minutes.
Snoop Shrek says Martinelli has been poor lately, though. It's like he forgot how to dribble past players. We did see one moment very near the end where he cuts in on his right, similar to what Saka did, has a shot blocked. You wanted to see a little bit more of that from him today.
Yeah, he's been getting stick from a lot of Arsenal fans, and I think the person that sent that comment in is totally correct. In a weird way, he seems more confident dribbling against two players than he does against one, because the two players he can body feint, create a gap for himself and cut through. Against one, he's been really, really poor. He's come under some fire from Arsenal fans. I think he'll come through it, but the reality is, the club can obviously see that because they've gone and got Trossard. They've got cover for those positions. And I think, he's just been poor since he's come back from the World Cup. But give him time. Be patient with him, and I'm sure he'll come good. But now I think having someone that he can learn from, someone to push him, I think will only make him a hell of a lot better.
So that was the last 10 minutes. Quick comment check. Draxy saying sack Ten Hag. I think that's a little bit over dramatic. Nadia with the super chat. They need to send Wout back to Hogwarts after that one. So then Luke Shaw, 83 minutes, picks up a yellow card. I do think the referee was almost a little bit too lenient today. Which isn't necessarily a thing that I would normally criticise referees for, but a few instances where players definitely should have got yellow cards. I'm looking at Wan-Bissaka, Xhaka as well on the other side. I think maybe he should have got a yellow.
Someone back,
so to be fair,
any yellows for diving?
Obviously, Arteta got a yellow as well. There was no yellows for diving.
Could have been a couple of yellows for diving.
You know what? I guess you have to give him a little bit of credit for allowing the game to flow. He knows this is a very important game, and you like to see it instead of us sitting here talking about some other, negative stuff.
The key thing is consistency, right? The ref was, whether you like how he refed or not, he was consistent for both teams, and he was consistent from the beginning to the end. And so you've got to give him a little bit of praise for that. You can judge individual moments, but so long as he's consistent across, there's no yellows that we got that United wouldn't have got, and no yellows that they got that we wouldn't have got. It was pretty consistent across the game. Obviously, if you're it's never going to be perfect, but you'd ideally like to see a little bit more leniency than more conservative. And just on the substitution of Fred, I think it goes to show that even if it is for 10, 15 minutes, you cannot allow this Arsenal team to dominate the ball at home with that home crowd. It was only a short period of time. The game was very, very even. I understood the substitution. I don't think it was a bad substitution, but it just didn't work out, the two subs at the same time. It didn't work out for United because once we dominate that ball, we're able to create. Right up until the final whistle, we're able to create, and we showed that today.
Yeah, and as you mentioned at the end of the game, Eddie Nketiah gets his goal, and then there was a period where after the celebrations we didn't actually know how much added time there was. But in the 90th minute, Eddie Nketiah gets his second goal of the night. Brilliant build-up play from Trossard to put it out to Zinchenko. And I would argue today that Zinchenko, Eddie and Saka, all three of them could have been man of the match.
Do you know what?
Let's maybe get a poll up. Who do we think was man of the match for Arsenal today?
For sure, because you know what? I think Zinchenko plays like this week in, week out. He does this so regularly because the game is not necessarily the magnitude of Arsenal, United. He hasn't had the opportunity. Obviously, it's going to be really interesting to see him play against his old club, Man City, who he knows very well. But he plays like this very, very consistently. He rarely loses the ball. If he does lose the ball, maybe it comes down to lack of pace more than anything else. He plays basically two positions, covering central midfield and fullback. And he really is a Rolls-Royce player. He was never a starter.
A lot of people saying Zinchenko man of the match in the comments now.
Yeah, listen, if you give any of these guys, this probably got to get a poll up in the chat, because if you give any of these guys man of the match, Saka, Zinchenko or Eddie, I can't fault you. Eddie's obviously more down to goals. Zinchenko and Saka are more down to consistency. There was a moment when Tomiyasu bombed up and Rashford dropped all the way back. Saka dropped all the way back to make a tackle.
Really crucial as well.
And so he's all over the pitch, giving us assists, goals, creating and dropping back and making tackles.
Well, we've just put the poll up.
Yep.
I've made my vote. I've gone Zinchenko.
Yeah, fair enough. Like I say, I'm not mad at any of them, and this is what we want. If we do want to go on and win leagues and compete in cups, we need to be having multiple players putting in man of the match performances, player of the match performances. It can't just be one or two people. And I think that's what separated us from United today, is where if you had to give it who was Man United's best player today, Rashford. You're looking straight at Rashford, and you're not really looking at
when you've got 3 or 4, sometimes even 5 to choose from, you know life's good. I remember those days when I said, you know what? Any of them could have been man of the match today.
You need a DM. We'll loan you on any. How's that to the end of the season?
We're good.
No? Okay, fair enough.
Actually, yeah, you can keep it. Nketiah says, why 258? I fully 100,000% believe we can win this league this year, says Draxy. And then, of course, there was the customary bringing on of Rob Holding right at the end to see out the win. When he comes on, it's a banker. Arsenal are there to see out the game. Garnacho, maybe a little bit too late to bring him on. Obviously, it was 3-2 when they brought him on. But if they'd have maybe brought on a Garnacho instead of Fred.
I thought so. Because, again...
Remember, I said sitting there, I reckon Garnacho replaces Anthony. And
you did. Happen. You did say that. And I agree with you, because I think Ten Hag was happy to get out of the Emirates with a point, realistically. And I think it showed. One thing that Zinchenko doesn't have is pace. And Garnacho is very confident. He's got a lot of pace. He's the kind of player that could maybe... Anthony's got tricks and, nutmegged a couple of players, but it didn't come to much. He hasn't really got the pace to cause that low block problems. So I was more nervous about Garnacho coming on. And yeah, I agree with you. I think he brought him on maybe just a little bit too late. Yeah. But he's a new manager to the league, and to be fair, these are the things that he's going to learn. He's going to take big learning from these types of games, Ten Hag.
Well, the poll is up. Who was your man of the match? Zinchenko and Nketiah or Saka? Over 1,000 votes so far in a few minutes only. Zinchenko 48% currently, and Nketiah 35%. Saka 17%. Eddie, 2 crucial goals in crucial moments. First goal to come back 1-1. Second goal 3-2 winner. Exodus says Trossard is class. Let's go through some of the stats for this game. Very close to 60% possession for Arsenal. 58. They pretty much were totally even on duels won. United a little bit more successful in terms of aerial duels won, but 4 offsides for United, 1 for Arsenal. 12 corners to 4, but here's the juicy stuff. If you're an Arsenal fan, this is what you're going to like. 3 goals to 2, 25 shots against 6. Admittedly, only a fifth of those shots for Arsenal were on target. United had 4 shots, so 5 to 4.
So many of them must have come in the second half, because at half time we only had 1 shot on target, and that was, I think, maybe a late one that David De Gea got. But all of those shots are coming in the second half, and that shows the intensity of Mikel Arteta's message at half time, saying, that must be 23 shots.
Yeah, well, 25 shots in total. Yeah. And this is another big stat for Arsenal. This shows and emphasises the knocking on the door late on. 13 shots blocked. Yeah. There was a good 2 or 3 minutes where it was just relentless from Arsenal. There were so many bodies on the line throwing themselves in front of shots. Yep. And 13 blocked shots. That is unbelievable. Shots inside the box, 20 for Arsenal. Outside the box, 5. And it's 3 apiece inside and outside for United there. Tackles, the same tackles. Tackles won. Arsenal slightly better, even though you thought that Arsenal were maybe lacking when it came to winning that second ball today.
Yeah, we didn't really win a lot of second balls today, and that's where we were poor. That defensive urgency, I thought, was lacking. If that defensive urgency were there, we would never have been 2-1 down in the first place to need to chase the game. But, ultimately, you've got a striker like Eddie Nketiah that can pull the goods out and get you the win, then you can't complain too much. But, I think we're in a good place because we're putting in good performances, scrappy performances and getting over the line, but you still don't really get the feeling that we're at our most optimal, and that's what's really exciting.
Yeah, passes, you were well on top of Manchester United for that 517 made as opposed to 386, as you'd expect from the home team. More long passes today from United, which I guess when you've got Wout Weghorst up front, those stats are naturally going to increase a little bit. But all of the crosses as well, 22 against 9, with successful crosses, 22.7% for Arsenal. Yeah. And 0.00% for Manchester United in terms of successful crosses. Is that an area that they need to improve on? Wan-Bissaka, very good defensively one-on-one. But going forward, I mean, naturally comparing him to Trent, maybe it's the other way around for Trent, and it's too much of an imbalance.
Also, you've got Anthony, right, who has to cut in on his left foot to get a cross
doesn't
away.
Like to cross, does he?
But even if he does, the 1 or 2 crosses he did do, they didn't get into Weghorst because he's cutting in onto his left, and he's got so many bodies to get. If you've got, he'll do a skill to get beyond the fullback, but then he has to cut backwards across the fullback again to get the cross away. So he's got to work on that confidence, because it shouldn't be too difficult at this level of football, even if it's your weaker foot, to whip across into a big target man like that.
Yeah, getting a little bit closer between Zinchenko and Nketiah in the poll right now. Almost 2,000 votes so far. There's 3,000 of you in this chat right now. Please like the video. Please smash the comments as you guys are. They're flying in today. And of course, subscribe to DR Sports if you haven't already. And if you've just joined us, Eddie Nketiah gets a brace and wins the game for the Gunners in the last minute. Arsenal 3, Manchester United 2. This is the post-game live show on DR Sports with myself, AGT, and Nick Francis. Let's talk about some individual performances from Arsenal today that really impressed you. Let's go from start to back. Who impressed you the most today? We've mentioned some of the lads who could be man of the match, but what else did you like today from Arsenal?
I liked just the mental side. I thought for us it was going to be a real mental challenge, right? This is the only team we've lost to so far this season in the league. Obviously, we haven't played Man City twice, so we'll see what happens there. And the goalposts for us have consistently been moved, right? As you know, maybe you faced this when you guys were going for the league, but you know, every time we play a set of teams, it's your next six fixtures. When Partey was out injured, you know, it was El Neni can't cover him. Jesus out injured, and Nketiah can't cover him. And so to see Eddie Nketiah, I know he scored 2 goals, so we keep talking about him, but to see him scoring since the World Cup, he's come back and he scored against West Ham, he scored against Brighton, no goal against Newcastle, 2 goals against Manchester United, which is the big, you know, the big boogeyman team for us this season is huge. It's a sign of really, really good mentality to keep pushing until the very last minute. Someone we haven't mentioned at all, because we spoke about the 3 guys in contention for man of the match, but Martin Odegaard is
fantastic
just unbelievable.
Player,
unbelievable. He's so comfortable. Obviously, we know the Premier League is very, very physical. He's so comfortable taking the ball in tight areas. He just makes such good decisions. He knows when to switch the play and get the ball away. He knows when to run and carry. He really plays like a quarterback and dictates where everybody else goes. And obviously, he's the captain. People listen to him. And I think the reason that lots of people are not screaming about him being man of the match is because he does this pretty much every game. He's so good and so consistent. And I'm still surprised, because when we had him on loan last season, I wasn't a big fan. I thought actually maybe Emi Buendia, he's got Premier League experience. And now looking at Odegaard, he looks like a totally different player. And I put a lot of that down to the work that Arteta's done with him.
Yeah, and having that captain's armband on him as well. I mean, that was potentially a controversial decision when it was given to him at the start of the season. But he's a player that leads by example. He's not a shouter. Listen, he might be, but he's an organizer, and like I said, he leads with his feet.
He brings a real sense of calm to this. You know, you look at Granit Xhaka when Granit Xhaka's the captain, and Xhaka being quite rash, and he still is rash, even though I love him. He still is rash. And
lucky not to get booked as well.
Very lucky not to get booked today, and that rashness definitely filters over to the team when he's the captain. But when you look at having someone with Xhaka's intensity is necessary to go and win big games and be physical, win those physical battles. You need that. But having someone like Odegaard to bring that calm to being the captain, it's a great balance to have within the team, and that's what it's all about, is balance. I think the centre-backs today, I thought, did okay. Neither of the goals were really down to them. I think the first goal was Ben White and Partey, and the second goal was Tomiyasu and Ramsdale. Yeah. So although they've conceded 2, I don't think that reflects particularly badly on them. They were composed on the ball, didn't really get pressed aggressively too much, or they got pressed, but they didn't crack under the pressure of being pressed. So yeah, I thought that they're probably going to go under the radar because we conceded 2 goals. But yeah, I just think this is not Arsenal at their optimal. I think Xhaka was good in spells, but had a few really poor spells where that's why he had to make that foul. Partey was a 5 or a 6 across the whole game. He had lots of poor moments with a couple of good spells. So with these players not even playing really at the optimal level, like I say, I do think there's a level or 2 that this team can go up, especially with new signings coming in.
Speaking of new signings, Nikhil in the comments with the super chat is absolutely buzzing. He says, what a win. Just need to sign cover for Partey and we'll be fine.
Absolutely.
Not even City can stop us. Don't want us to throw money for the sake of it. Come on, you Gunners. Speaking of City, 2 fixtures against City in the next couple of weeks. They won today. Haaland hat-trick. That's his 4th hat-trick in 19 games now.
Yep.
Is this a good time to play City from an Arsenal perspective? And can you deal with potentially losing 2 games to them? Could win 2 as well.
2 league games. You mean 2 league games?
Well, FA Cup, and then it's the
I mean, obviously the league is
the
league is the real focus for us. You know, if I'm going to lose one, I'm going to choose to lose the FA Cup game. We have a really good record in the FA Cup, and we even have a good record in the FA Cup against Man City. In the FA Cup run where Arteta won the FA Cup when he first came in, we played City in that run, and they had a way better team than us, and we managed to have a good record against them. So I'm not too worried. We saw in the United game that Lissandro done quite a good job on Haaland. Haaland is a very good striker when he's got space to operate in, and I think that we can close him down. I do think that he'll probably get a goal against us, but I'm confident going in against Manchester City, to be honest with you. And obviously we can always come out of those games, or out of the league game, with a draw. The league game's all I'm really focused on, to be honest with you. The FA Cup game, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, obviously we've got so many FA Cups at Arsenal.
Who do you play in that game? Yeah, are we going to see the likes of Trossard maybe starting, the likes of Fabio Vieira, or do you still go and try and win that game?
I think Arteta will go and try and win it. He is a bit of a madman in this sense. He puts out the strongest possible team of players that he's got at any given moment, regardless of what's happening. And it does my head in a little bit, but that's his philosophy of how to go out and win trophies. And he really believes that for you to be an elite player, you need to be able to, your body needs to be able to withstand all of these games. But yeah, I think Fabio Vieira should absolutely be playing a role. Maybe Marquinhos should get some minutes to play a role. Trossard, to go and I think it depends as well heavily on what City put out, and that will be a real show of where their mentality's at. I think we have to start looking at City and saying, actually, never mind Arsenal. Arsenal are the overachievers, but for you, Manchester City, what do you believe that you can achieve this season?
We're just watching back the first goal. Luke Shaw wins it, and it comes off of Partey. Rashford through his legs, and a good 23 yards out, he finds the bottom corner. Great finish, and Ramsdale can't really get near it as it zips past him. But this was good from United in terms of Bruno finding Rashford the danger man, but this was just not even a quarter chance. He had to go for it, and he finds the goal. There you go. Difficult for Thomas Partey to watch that back.
You might say.
Straight through his legs. We've just finished the poll, guys. 2.6 thousand of you today have voted.
Okay.
Eddie Nketiah, the man of the match, but it was not by a big stretch, people. We're talking 1% here. Zinchenko in second place, and Bukayo Saka, the star boy, in 16% in terms of man of the match. 63 miles an hour, 26. So I said 25 to 27 initially, and it was 26 yards out from Rashford, 63.4 miles an hour. Que mira, bobo, people are saying in the comments. Obviously what Messi said to Weghorst at the World Cup. But let's talk about the Arsenal equaliser. Brilliant pressure, closing down United when they were looking to play out from the back. Martinelli finds Partey, who maybe redeems himself with this involvement in the goal. Gives it back to Martinelli, who goes down the line, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka knocks it out for a corner. They look to take the corner fairly quickly. It's knocked to Odegaard, who gives it back to Martinelli, and Xhaka makes a great little peeling run, wants it down the line, and he gets it very shortly. Zinchenko on the ball now. Great pass in from him. Xhaka on the ball. Back to Zinchenko. We're just explaining it for you if you haven't seen it already. Odegaard out wide to Xhaka. Really patient play this from Arsenal. And as I said, Wan-Bissaka in no man's land, and Eddie just steals in front of him.
Well, it's Wan-Bissaka that concedes the corner in the first place, because we identified that this is the guy that can get pressed.
At this stage right now, Nick, he's in control. He's got one arm on Saka.
He's drifting away. He's just here he's starting to drift.
And he's more worried about Gabriel for a second, and now he's lost all direction now in that moment when as soon as the ball comes in, he's lost.
Well, he's staring at the ball and not at the man, and which is fine if the ball and the man are in the same direction, but the ball and the man are in two completely different directions. He's waiting for the ball to come and land on his head, and he must be, Eddie Nketiah just goes in behind him, and he just doesn't, at the beginning, you see him just touching and holding Nketiah's shirt, and once he lets go of that, he has no idea of his whereabouts of where Nketiah is. And I said to you, one-on-one defending is good, and he's been on decent form for them so far, but when it comes to these set pieces, movement, positioning, that's where he's weakest.
And Nketiah, to almost preempt that Wan-Bissaka might not know where he is, and to take the risk, because a lot of strikers, if it wasn't coming straight to them, normally in that situation, if the defender's got a bit of awareness, he chests that back to the keeper, right? And he might get a little round of applause for the composure shown. But for Eddie to steal in front of him, take the risk, get his head on it, head it down, it's on target. That's what you need your number 9 to be doing week in, week out. That's what Haaland does every single week, be the last man at the end of all these passes that are strung together. That was really patient, brilliantly controlled ball in from Xhaka, and Eddie Nketiah, right place, right time. But that's not by luck, that's by... he does this. It goes under the radar because his finishing isn't great. We saw another chance where the ball kind of got muddied in a bunch of different bodies, and it fell out to him, and he was one-on-one with De Gea, and he just snatches at the shot, and De Gea makes a good save, and maybe a better finisher tucks that away. His finishing isn't the best, but that side of him, that positioning, that awareness, that constant running, he's probably one of the fittest men on the pitch tonight. Do you know what I mean? He will run from the first minute to the last minute, and this is what he does, in the famous Rio Ferdinand words. This is what this guy does. Looking at the Saka goal now, 53 minutes in, Tomiyasu with a pretty innocuous pass back to Saka, who has Eriksen onto him. He cuts it back inside. Weghorst gets involved. But before De Gea
Another
knows
26
it,
yarder, isn't it?
that is around 26 yards. We'll see officially now. But Saka, again, like I said, almost going back towards his goal and then fires it right across the far post. And if we look closely here, Nick, we can see if it skids up on the floor at the right time for Saka. And yeah, it does. That's the perfect time for it to bounce.
Just in front, just in the 6-yard box.
Eddie can't believe it. His face, he turns around, he can't believe it. But look, he's not even looking at the goal.
He can never hit a finish like that.
He finds that little corridor between those 4 United players and that far corner. That is a brilliant goal from Saka.
That's when Saka's at his scariest. When he doesn't look at the goal, that's when he's at his scariest, because that means he's looked up, he's scanned the pitch, he knows where the goal is, and he immediately just goes into autopilot. That pass from Tomiyasu, you said, is innocuous. The pass is, but the movement isn't. He stays up high to keep Luke Shaw occupied so that Saka can go one-on-one against a midfielder that isn't, the most defensively inclined. And it's just a great finish. Great finish.
Yeah, as you say, he draws in Eriksen. He has a little scan to see.
He looks up
space.
Here. He knows where he is.
Then he's on the attack.
Then that's it. Doesn't look up again. Doesn't need to look up again. He knows where the goal is. Do you know what I mean? And because he doesn't look up, De Gea's not even expecting the shot.
Yeah. And that's, you can be 26 yards out with a bunch of bodies in between you and the keeper. But if you can do something like that and not look at the goal, the keeper goes, hang on, he's gone. Oh, it's in.
But when
I'm picking it out my own net.
What's great about that is he doesn't just know where the goal is, where the keeper is. He knows where the bodies are. So he's got a gap between Lissandro Martinez and Scott McTominay. He's got a gap to bend that ball into, and then once he can bend the ball into that gap, he can find the goal.
Arsenal are going to bottle the league. Let's be honest. Saying off-white panda in the comments. Trossard was floating across the pitch with a lot of star face emojis from Saksam. Saka is the best player in the league, says DNYG. Big up to you. Can anyone name a winger in all of world football better than Saka at the moment?
You'd be hot. You're looking at elite names like Mbappe. I'm genuinely believe that. Do you know what I mean? I think that Saka goes under the radar because he doesn't do a lot of the fancy stuff. He doesn't do the step overs, and you want to talk about this goal now, as I'm sure.
Let's get back onto the action here. We'll come back onto Saka, I'm sure. But Ramsdale makes a right howler of that one. If we look closely,
it's definitely a Ramsdale.
He can't catch it. It's his own player that's challenging him.
That's what I mean.
Tomiyasu. There's no communication there.
That's why I called it as a mistake. I think Tomiyasu's got the ball. I think he's got it under control, and I do think it's Ramsdale that makes a play outside of maybe where he should be operating. And it doesn't look like he's communicated that at all, and it's just poor communication there. And I do think those are the things that make Ramsdale, I don't know, maybe England number 2 versus Jordan Pickford. He has the nature to make those. I think he's a fantastic goalkeeper, but he does make little mistakes here and there.
Yeah, he made up for it with some other saves.
Yeah,
in the
absolutely,
game, of course.
100%.
But looking at the third goal now, Trossard, brilliant. Great ball out to Zinchenko, and it's a bit of a miss-hit between Fred and Odegaard, but it finds Eddie Nketiah. And if we watch here, when the ball goes to Zinchenko...
Look at Wan-Bissaka again, positioning. I said this so many times.
You're giving him way too much space there.
You can just pull this guy, with the movement that we've got, we can pull him out of position. And then I think it's a slide tackle there as well. So I don't even know
if... It's like a missed shot, slide tackle.
I don't think Eddie is offside, but even if he is, I think there's a good argument that ball comes from Fred, not even necessarily coming from Odegaard necessarily.
It's Martinez on the first phase that keeps onside Eddie Nketiah. In the second phase, yes, Zinchenko is further than Wan-Bissaka, but he's not interfering with play, and that goes to Nketiah, who is in an onside position.
And for any Man United fans that don't know what interfering with play is, go and look at that screenshot of where Zinchenko is outside of the posts. That is the definition of not interfering with play, not chasing the ball down.
There you go. Catastrophic from Nick there. And then it was 3-2, and it was the end of the game. As we said, a couple of last-ditch attempts for United to get something by bringing on Garnacho, but it wasn't to be in the end for them. Abizel 1010 says, Eddie Nketiah, 4 goals in 5 games since Jesus got injured. West Ham 1 goal, Brighton, United 2 goals. Top striker cost nothing. Saka cost nothing. Smith Rowe cost nothing as well, he says. Toon fan, great result for us. Get in, says Kenneth Stark. Buzzing about that one.
Up the tunes.
They've got Wan-Bissaka, but we've got 2 in Xhaka and Saka. Come on, you Gunners, says Exodus. And Arsenal are playing beautiful football, says Hadi Said. And Wout Weghorst made a new record by taking only 4 touches in the box, says Gurav 10.
That's Harry Kane for England stats.
Kind of. Well, you're not far off. 1.8 watching right now, 1,800 of you. Make sure if you haven't already, like the video. How many likes are we on at the minute? Let me just refresh the page. As you can see right at the end there, Arteta, in the first half, he got himself a yellow card, and then right at the end, running all up and down the touchline. Do you think that's something maybe he needs to curb in his game a little bit?
Absolutely not. Maybe when we're not at the top of the league, we can have that conversation. But for right now, he can rack up all the yellow cards he needs, because I see this very, very often from a lot of other managers. He's been this way consistently. This is again the FH moving the goalposts. He's been like this ever since he joined Arsenal when we were finishing 8th, and he didn't get anywhere near as many yellow cards as he does now, or anywhere near as much media attention as he does now that we're top of the league and fighting for things. He's always been like this. So, you know, again, it comes back to that word I used earlier when we were talking about Anthony Taylor, consistency. What exactly are the rules, especially when it's a crunch game and it's fighting for the title and different things like that? People are going to come out of their box and be aggressive. But no, I don't think he needs to calm it down at all. That has been detrimental to us once or twice, maybe definitely against you guys, against Liverpool away from home at Anfield, and I think maybe at Old Trafford, but it helps us more than it hinders us overall as a team. And so I don't think he needs to calm it down at all, no.
Well, we saw it when he did it at Anfield, and then
and even I said at the time, I said, you're picking the wrong place to do this, because it's in the wrong place, he needs to read the room. But he at that time when we were finishing 8th and finishing 5th, he's getting his managerial experience as much as the players are getting their experience, and that's why I love Bukayo Saka, and all the Arsenal fans love Bukayo Saka, because he's been with us playing wing back for Emery in the Europa League and really fighting his way into this team, and he's been a massive catalyst in this rebuild. You know, I think he's one of the only players. Him and Xhaka are the only players left over from this overall rebuild. You know, so if we are to go on and win the league, they're two players that have been there.
Smith Rowe probably as well.
Holding as well. Smith Rowe wasn't really playing it. He was on Holding as well. You know, these are the players that have been there the whole time. El Neni as well.
Yeah, we're just shy of 1,000 likes, people. So make sure, if you haven't liked the video so far, if you're one of the 60 odd people that are denying us from 1,000 likes so far, then make sure you bump those up for us. We're only about 35 away from 1,000 likes. Please get us there.
Let's do it. Like the video.
Eddie Brace then wins the game for Arsenal. As I said before, 5 points clear still. What has to happen now for Arsenal to not win this league? And are you one of the Arsenal fans now that admits it's yours to lose? Do you want that pressure on your shoulders now?
Nah,
big boy leagues here.
Never. I still think top 4 is our target, to be honest with you.
Don't give me that. No, listen, I'm asking you in a way that...
Listen, I think what has to happen for us to lose is we have to lose both games to City. You know, if we lose both games to City, then that's, you know, I think they're the team with the squad they've got and with the money they got while we're still in the transfer window. Yeah. They're the team that you don't want to see running away with it, because they're the team that have form for not being caught. With Arsenal, we're in unprecedented territory. People will say bottlers for bottling the league, but we're going way back to 2015, 2016 for that type of Arsenal bottle in the league and stuff like that. With this team and with this manager, this is really unknown territory. Whereas with City, we know that they are very capable of going on a 10, 12 game run and not dropping any points. So they're the guys you just don't want out in front of you. You know, we're much better off us putting the pressure on them. If we can come out of the City games with 4 points out of the 2 league games, and that's huge for us. 2 points is not the end of the world. But again, I think it's going to be a real psychological battle when we play Manchester City. Yeah, and Pep versus Arteta going for the league. Who would have thought this, by the way, when Arteta was merely putting out cones for Pep 2 or 3 years ago? There you go. That's all he ever did. I mean, well, the Ten Hag is also a student of Pep Guardiola as well. Yeah, he is, at Bayern Munich. Yeah. Zakaria says, did Arsenal deserve to win? In the chat, answer that one amongst yourselves. We've covered that one already. Obviously, Jacob Kiwior was in the stands today with his partner. How do you see him coming in to now be backup for the likes of the centre backs? But I'm also hearing he can play in a CDM role as well. Yeah, I think we'll just need a little bit of rotation. You know, Thomas Partey, I think, is some part of Thomas Partey's inconsistency I put down to the fact that there's no one else there with him. It helps you hugely. Look at Luke Shaw stepping up when Alex Telles got signed. When there's someone to compete with and also someone to learn from, there's a huge amount. Just looking at the table table now with 5 points clear, and we have a game in hand. That's one of the other things we didn't mention about the battle with City. You know, we can not. I don't believe in free hits, but if we can get a draw from one of them, we could be 6 points clear with a game in hand, and then go into that second game. But yeah, having someone to compete with, having someone that can show you new things is never going to hurt you. And also, Gabriel plays a hell of a lot of minutes. I think he's played all of the minutes so far almost all the minutes so far this season. So some rotation there will be really, really crucial. Same with Trossard.
Yeah, the table is looking very good right now if you're an Arsenal fan. I'm putting the word out there that I do believe this is Arsenal's to lose now. Let us know in the comments if you believe as well that this league title, this Premier League title that has evaded Arsenal since 2004, 19 years right now, is it time it's coming back to the Emirates?
We're on 50 points after 19 games. If we replicate exactly what we've done so far, we'll end the season on 100 points.
You could well do it. I mean, when I watch Arsenal these days, I can't really see a game that you're going to lose. The big test for me, and I've said it before, you know, people are rightly getting very confident, Arsenal fans, that they can win the league, and they've got every right to, because they are the best team in the country right now, one of the best in Europe the way that they're playing as well. But for me, the two massive tests that are yet to happen for Arsenal this season, go and get something at the Etihad and go and get something at Anfield. And I'm not saying that as a Liverpool fan, but the record speaks for itself. No win there in 12 years or something like that. If this is going to be your year, similar to 89 when you won it at Anfield, the Michael Thomas late goal, those are massive games for Arsenal.
They are huge. It's the balance again, like I said before, physical of this footballing tests and mental tests as well. Do you know what I mean? Anfield has been a bit of a boogeyman ground for us for a good long period of time now. Like, this is a ground where we don't just go and lose. We've been hammered there before. Etihad, we have got results. Anfield, we really struggled to get results there. So we could be playing you guys at a good time because you guys are struggling, and that could just exercise some demons. And it will be an element of luck of we're not playing the Liverpool, we're playing a really depleted Liverpool side, but sometimes you need that luck. And like I say, we're on 19 games, 50 points. We just need to replicate that again. And in those 19 games, there is a loss. So were we to take one loss against Man City at the Etihad, just for argument's sake, and then maybe the draw at home is the same draw as Newcastle, we could still replicate that 50 points. We don't have to be absolutely perfect. We'll aim for perfection, of course, but if we drop points, we just have to roll on to the next one. Where I started to see us be a serious team and really believe in this rebuild is last season. Even though we went on a terrible run, whenever we would lose games, we would tend to bounce back and start going on a winning run. And that for me is where I started. Just that's where the belief started, you know, and we're seeing sort of the evolution of that now.
Yeah, Arsenal have really put together a very impressive squad at such a young age as well. Still is it the youngest?
I think it is. Yeah. We still got our second youngest. It's the second youngest in the league now. Yeah.
Another vote for you before we go today. How many points will Arsenal finish up on? We've got three options for you. 80 to 89 points is option 1. 90 to 99, option 2. And that golden triple-digit number that's only been achieved once before, that 100-point mark or plus. Where and how many points do Arsenal finish up on? Let us know in the comments.
And we did a show, a Saturday football show near the beginning of the season. You asked me if City could go unbeaten. That was this season, wasn't it? And I said,
back in August, yeah.
Yeah, you know, and that was the chat of, you know, could City be this invent? And I said to you, absolutely no chance. There's no way. You know, and back then we never would have thought that we'd be in this position.
Absolutely
now.
not.
Do you know what I mean? So we've just got to take it. We've got to be looking at the table, going, listen, we've got 19 games to go. Let's just stay ahead of Man United and Manchester City, and that's all we need to do.
Well, Mission Kid here saying getting ahead of yourself after 19 games. And that's what you just said you shouldn't do now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a case of getting ahead of ourselves. If anything, this title challenge has been pushed on us. A lot of our fans still just say, listen, top four's the target. But, you know, it's getting, like I say, it's getting put onto us really more than anything else. But, you know, why not? Let's enjoy the run. We don't know if we're going to win the league. We don't know if we're going to come top 4. But while the team's playing well, when we've lost one game halfway through the season, let's just enjoy it.
Yeah, Arsenal plays a proper expansive football. This is like a miracle. Wow, Arteta, who would say that? Says Nazino D.
There were a few of us that were saying it. It was very, very small and quiet because a lot of the fans were attacking us. But there are a few fans that were...
What do you say to those fans who very, very, very vocally wanted him out. And we're not talking 6 months ago, a year ago. We're talking maybe 2 years ago here.
At the time, I understood. I just think people need time, right? You've got Eric Ten Hag that's coming to Manchester United. He spent close to 250 million in his first window. Arteta came in January of 2019, and do you know who he got in his first window? Cedric and Pablo Mari. Genuinely, on loan, no players bought. So, there needs to be an element of patience. We are still Arsenal, which means that we do not have, same thing I said about missing out on Mudryk. We're not Chelsea. We can't buy a £100 million player, and if it doesn't work out, buy 3 more. We have to be really conservative about how we go about things. That's the sort of pride and almost arrogance that Arsenal fans have. When we do win things, we win it in what you might consider the right way.
Like Liverpool did.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. But yeah, there's a real element of pride in that, and you get to sit on that when other people come in with a hell of a lot of money and buy titles, right? So we're building slowly, and I thought, what I used to say to people when they wanted Arteta out is, if we're ever going to win a league again, how long are you willing to wait for that to happen? And most of them said 4, 5, 6 years. Yeah. That's how long. And I said, well, give him that time then. He's come in and said, I want Arsenal to be competing for top trophies, that's Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues, within 5 years. That was 3 years ago. So we are way ahead of schedule, and this is the rebuild. If you guys were to get rid of Klopp this summer, I'm not saying you should, but if you replace Klopp this summer, how long would it take this new manager to rebuild? It would take at least 2 years. And that's with a lot of players that have won a title in a Premier League. We have no winners in that team. There's nobody that had ever won anything in that team.
Well, you've got Zinchenko and Jesus, who have obviously won 4 Premier League
4 out of the last 5, yep.
With Man City. They definitely bring some kind of winning mentality.
Yep,
I mean, if 8 medals between 2 players doesn't increase the winning mentality in a team, then I don't know what would.
I think just the experience as well. When we get into that home straight of the last 9, 10 games, they're going to have a hell of a lot of experience of being in those positions,
Big up to everyone liking the video. We're well over 1,000 right now.
Come on.
Keep it coming. AK Apple says that Odegaard pass to Xhaka was special. It really was very cute in the box, close control, as we were saying. Odegaard at the minute, he could find space in a phone box.
He really could. He just, like I say, the great players create space. You can try and press them and close them all you want, but he drops the shoulder one way, drops the shoulder the other way, and suddenly he's got a hell of a lot of space.
Yeah. Well, guys, we're coming to the end of the show. How many points will Arsenal finish on just before we end up? Keep your votes coming in. There's a lot of votes so far, and it's looking good if you're an Arsenal fan right now in terms of these potential point tally-ups. To sum up the game for us, let us know, Nick, how and how much this means to you to beat Manchester United after they'd beaten you earlier on in the season. Yep. You finally got one over them again.
It's massive. I mean, this is still, you might disagree with this, but Arsenal versus Manchester United is still the kind of the face of the Premier League. In many,
agree with that.
I know you wouldn't agree with that, but it's still the
The
rivalry.
first time you could say that.
It's the first time that this game has actually meant something for the last 5 years.
So how can it still be the face of the Premier League?
Because there's still 2 of the bigger fan bases. When you go international, when you ask people about the Premier League globally, a lot of them still go back to that Invincible era. A lot of them still go back to that Vieira and Wayne Rooney era. That for many people, maybe it's our age, but for many people, that's 29.
Oh, same age.
Yeah, so for many people, it's the golden era of the Premier League, and so it's great to have this game mean so much. But for me, what's amazing about this is we've won, but we've won in the way that we needed to. We need hard wins because we need to not get complacent. If we come out and beat teams 3-4-0, we're liable to get complacent and make mistakes. This tough game keeps us on our toes. Everyone's going to go into training tomorrow, training extremely hard because this game was so tough, and that's exactly what we need. Bits that we rode our luck at times, they rode their luck at times, but this game was absolutely perfect for us. We need to be winning games, but we need to be tested at the same time.
Yeah, Arsenal, massive mental victory for them today over Manchester United. Last comment today, Pato0115 says, big up to early 90s Ice Cube for his contributions to the
Come on, bro.
Today's
West Side, you know what it is.
Right, we're finishing up now. How many points will Arsenal finish on? 30% of you think 80 to 89. That would mean only a maximum of 40 or 39 points left for Arsenal for the rest of the season. 90 to 99, a massive 52% of you think that Arsenal will get 90 to 99 points this season. That is unbelievable.
I would want us to get over 90 points. That's what Liverpool have done
for the last couple of years.
I think we're more than capable. With the new players we're bringing in, I think we're more than capable. And I think that more importantly, I think the board believe that we're capable of getting over 90 points.
And 17% of you are saying 100 plus for Arsenal. So Arsenal fans, take that into Monday morning work with you, shine it, tell everyone how good Arsenal are, because that is a very, very good result for them today. Massive shout out to everyone that's watched. I've been AGT. This has been Nick Francis.
Big love.
And just to remind you, if you didn't know already, Eddie Nketiah gets a brace to send Arsenal 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League.
With a game in hand.
With a game in hand. Take care. We'll see you soon.